Every week, NFL teams battle for a victory. The members of the Roundtable battle to rank the top 10 teams in the NFL. Guests bring their arguments and defend their top 10. Hosted by Thomas Brown, this is the Rankings Roundtable.
Good evening, folks. I am Jeff Barnes filling in for Thomas Brown, and welcome to the Rankings Roundtable. For 17 weeks, you're going to see us here at NBS Media, along with friends, debate and rank teams in our top 10. Also, we have league topics to go through as well and discuss, along with some surprises. So make sure you tune in. But first, make sure we're going to make sure we get all these guys introed first and properly. I'm going to start off with some of the familiar faces here at Team NBS. I'm going to start with the amazing Greg Richter, who you've seen all over the place. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing, man?
Not bad. Listen, we're seeing a lot of each other this week.
Yeah.
Although you won't get to see me Saturday. Well, we'll
No.
see. Right? I'm supposed to be at USF versus Miami. We'll see if anything changes, but that's the plan. That was what I applied for my credential for. So you may be back in the host chair this Saturday night.
There you go.
Moving on, of course, we're adding the most famous name here at Team NBS Media. We're talking about Keith Richards. It's been too long, Keith, since I've had to share airtime with you. How you been?
I know I missed the time when you jip me every week on my wins.
You guys are still sour. You guys are still sour, man. Listen, I only rated the arguments. I didn't make them. So, nevertheless, so if you came up a little short, maybe you should have thought that argument out just a wee bit more. Just a wee bit more.
But I'm good. How you been?
All right. You know what's missing from the show? Some Vikings talk. Steve Rogers, come into the house. How are you, Steve?
How's it going, guys? Captain is officially in the building.
There you go. I didn't even have to give him a name. He came up with his own, folks. That's what we're talking about here. Team NBS, we're creative like that. Last but not least, very great friend of Team NBS Media. Love working with him a few shows this summer. We're talking about the amazing Rudy Reyes, courtesy of Fox 26 KMPH out on the West Coast. Steve in the house. Rudy in the house, sorry.
I've been called worse, but Rudy, I'll take that one. Thanks a lot.
I got overexcited, Rudy. I got overexcited, man. I was flowing, bro. I was flowing like Jay-Z, and then all of a sudden I went all the way down to DOS Effects, man. I am telling you.
You're flowing like him and not P. Diddy, so we're good.
Oh, no. And listen, I'm staying away from that one because that gets a little too close to home for me. I can tell you all some stories about that character. But anyway, we're talking roundtable. We're talking top tens. Everybody ready for some action?
You betcha.
All right, let's get into it. All right, so first things first, who do we want to start off with this week? Because this is going to be real interesting. We got everybody's up. You know what? Thomas ain't here. So I'm going to talk through Thomas's, and then I'm going to let you guys do your thing. All right? So Thomas, since he's not here, had the Chiefs at 1, the Bills at 2, the Saints at 3, and after the whooping they put on the Cowboys, and see why they shot up people's boards, the Buccaneers at 4, the Vikings, to many people's surprise, except for Steve's, at 5. 6, you're going to see the Texans, the Chargers at 7, Lions at 8, the Eagles at 9, and the Niners in a shocking 10. And yes, folks, there are many cheering as there is no America's team in the top 10. Now, you can bring this down, and I'm going to swing this around the room and let you guys intro your top 10s. But I want to we're going to start from the West Coast and bring it to the East. So therefore, we're going to start with you, Rudy. Let's see Rudy's top 10. So break it down for us, Rudy. Who you got here?
I got the Chiefs. There's been no change, really. 49ers, there was a change, but enough to put them back to number 2. You got the Buffalo Bills, who have won 2 in a row. Of course, it is still only week 2, moving into week 3. You have the New Orleans Saints at 4 because of that debacle the Cowboys faced, named New Orleans. Buccaneers, a win over the Lions. Lions at 6. Then you have the Texans. Eagles, who lost a gut-wrenching game against the Atlanta Falcons, and then Baltimore Ravens, who just continually find a way to lose at number 9, and the Cowboys clearly at number 10 because of that shellacking that they had attained by the New Orleans Saints. So, yeah, 49ers at 2. That's right.
All right. So sliding up slightly above the border there, we're going to go over to, of course, Greg Rector. Greg, let's see your top 10 and tell us about it.
All right. Well, I got the Chiefs, and then I have your Tampa Bay Buccaneers sitting at 2. I got the Saints at 3, the Houston Texans at 4, the Chargers, then the Niners. Here we go for Rudy, just for you, sir. Here we go is on my list. The Seahawks, the Eagles, and the Bills. See, I do not have the Cowboys on my top 10 list either. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, trust me, there's a lot of Cowboy fans that don't have them in their top 10 either. So you are not alone.
No, they don't.
Okay. Working our way over. The man with the most famous name in Team NBS. We're talking about Keith Richards. What is your top 10, Keith, and walk us through it? You're muted, Keith.
I am unmuted now.
There you go.
Clearly, I did not have the Broncos in the top 10. There was no discussion about that whatsoever. But I got the Chiefs at 1, Saints at 2. I put the Saints at 2 just because what they're doing offensively, 15 possessions, 15 scores. That's pretty crazy. Vikings at 3, they've been surprising. Surprised a lot of people. Bucks at 4, Bills at 5, Seahawks, Chargers, Cardinals, Niners, and then Cowboys at 10. I mean, they did get slapped, but who expected that?
Okay. All right. A lot of love for the Chiefs this week. Last but not least, Steve, tell us your top 10 and explain why you ranked them.
All right, so I'm doing this on a base by week to week basis. So I'm going to be strongly leaning on the teams that won their games that week. Currently I've got every team that is 2-0 in my top 10. So starting at the top, I've got the Saints, who are running away from every team that they're facing so far, including a Cowboys team that was supposed to be one of the top NFC teams coming into the year and kind of after week 1. So stepping into their house and shellacking them like that, they've got a 44-point or a 60-point point differential. So the Saints are my number 1 team, even if it doesn't last long. This week, they're my number 1 team, and that's kind of the same theme for my entire list. So I've got the Vikings, who, again, took out the NFC reigning Super Bowl representative and beat them again. So they had to be high on my list. They've got one of the 3 or 4 highest point differentials. I've got the Vikings at 2. The Bills also are doing the same thing, putting a large point spread differential on their opponents. They're 2-0. They're number 3. The Buccaneers got a little revenge from last season's postseason loss to the Lions, which knocked the Lions down for me, and the Bucs are at 4. You can kind of get the theme here. The Chiefs won their game narrowly against the Bengals, who are classically starting slow, and they're 0-2. So if you're barely beating an 0-2 team, are we really supposed to expect you to be the defending a 3rd time at the Super Bowl? I'm not so sure. So they're in the middle for me. And then I've got the Texans, who are also undefeated. The Chargers are undefeated. The Steelers are undefeated. And all these teams haven't really faced any great opponents yet, so they're at the bottom of my 10, but they're winning. So they won. That's why they're there. The Eagles I was going to have at 10, but I've actually reconsidered because of all of everyone's knowledge of lack of love for giving any to the Vikings. So the Vikings being such a soft loss for the 49ers, I'm actually going to make a late second change here and swap the Eagles and 49ers and put the 49ers back in the top 10 because both of those teams lost.
Interesting. So a lot of love for the Chiefs. So you got the Steve. All right. So I'm going to say for the Eagles fans in the chat, just to let you know, there will be no extra love for the Eagles this week. Not because they lost, because Thomas isn't sitting in this chair. Okay, so therefore there will be no extra love for the Eagles for me this week. I'm sorry, I just don't do that. Anyway, I'm going to randomly poke into a couple of you guys, and I'm going to ask you things about them because I'm really curious about some of these. So let's start with yours, Greg. I see your top 4 is pretty, but the Buccaneers higher than the Saints, the Texans.
Yep.
So, give me a little insight on that decision.
Buccaneers went up and beat Detroit in Detroit. that is no easy task. When you face that offensive line that the Lions have, which is going to be there for until 2027 minimum, and you do a number on the Lions, you deserve the spot.
Okay. All right. Anybody got a problem with that? No? Okay.
Completely agree.
I don't know if I would put them higher, but you're talking about a bunch of
They
2-0
deserve a spot.
teams that are playing really good in different ways. So it's subjective. They deserve to be in the top 5 for sure.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of Keith, while we got you up there. Okay, so looking at the wins we've had so far, you actually got the Cardinals at 8. I'm shocked you got them over the Niners and Cowboys. Let me know about that one.
I mean, it's what I see. They lose in week 1 because they throw Marvin Harrison Jr. like 1 ball. Maybe it was 3. I can't remember. But we see how dynamic that offense can be. There's questions about Kyler Murray coming into the season. I think they're answering a lot of those questions early in the season. There's still 15 more games to be played, but as of right now, I'll put them over the Cowboys. Cowboys just get a lot down just because they got beat so bad last Sunday. That was a big miss. And then the Eagles just really haven't looked on point. There's just something about them that's just not right. I'm not sure if it's Jalen Hurts missing those carries that he would get otherwise with Saquon Barkley being there, which I need to talk to him because he cost me $80. But there's just something about the Eagles that aren't quite there for me.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you how I feel about the Eagles. Listen, I was a little impressed with how they beat Green Bay. Green Bay wasn't a tough out when they played them in Brazil. This week, however, Atlanta played better than they did week 1. Kudos to Kirk Cousins for going out there and showing up big time when they needed him at the end of the game. But there were things about that Eagles team. They had chances to close that door, and everybody's going to point at the Saquon Barkley drop, but there were chances before that to close the door on Atlanta, and they couldn't get it done. So
it was Coach Sirianni in the first half who went for it on 4th and 3 when he shouldn't have. He should have just kicked the field goal, but no. And this is the issue that I always have when it comes to the Eagles and Sirianni is his mind. It is as awful as Dan Campbell is, folks.
Well, he couldn't say anything about to the crowd after that game because they lost. So usually he has some choice words for the crowd as he's walking out with a victory. Couldn't say that Monday night. No, it ain't personal in my opinion. Listen, I am fair and honest and unbiased when I'm on this microphone. And on my own, on the other hand, I may have some choice words about certain franchises I don't really care for. But while I'm on the mic, I am Joe Cool. You will not get that from me, sir. Although I do like to rib on people from time to time, but no. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go do one more of these. We've seen a lost Rudy, but we're going to pull Rudy's up real quick. See if there's anything interesting on here. Well, speaking of devil, there we go. All right, so if you look at 9, Baltimore makes the list, slightly over Dallas, right behind Philadelphia. I don't think Baltimore even made any of you guys' list. How do y'all feel about Baltimore being in his top 10?
Yeah, I'm not in agreement with that. When you're 0-2 and you're supposed to be leading the AFC North Division by this point, you're not making my top 10 list.
Yep.
No, they're just not good enough. I mean, they have all the weapons. They were a centimeter away from beating the Chiefs because we all know they're going to go for 2. You have Derrick Henry. You're probably going to get that. But they just don't look good. They should look a lot better with the weapons that they have, and they don't.
Gotcha. So just to let Rudy's had a family emergency, so he had to leave. So we're thoughts are with his family right now. Hope everything's okay. Moving forward, what we're going to do is, been on the air for a little while. Let's go take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what we feel is the bottom five. So we did top 10s. This week, we're going to start to talk about bottom fives right after the break. We'll be right back.
You are watching Team NBS Media. We are a digital media brand covering sports, entertainment, and lifestyle, with team members all across the country. Through our written content, podcasts, and video content, we bring you fresh and professional content. Interested in joining the team? Shoot us an email or DM. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Streetwear is not dead. The next wave in black fashion comes out the Bronx, New York. Rich Kid Clothing, picking up where Fubu, Rockaware, and Carl Kanai left off. Rich Kid is for the next generation of Get Fly fashion heads.
And we are back. So we talked about the top. Well, we got people at the bottom we got to give some shine to. Their play hasn't represented anything where they've shined, but we still got to talk about it, right? So here's the bottom five, folks. Okay. Whoa. Now, they don't look like bottom five to me, but let's talk about who do you think belongs in the bottom five? Greg, let's start with you.
Well, for me, it's the Panthers at the number 32 spot in this league. The 31 spot is the Giants. The 30th spot is the Broncos. Unfortunately, it's the Los Angeles Rams. I'm just they're just devastated by injuries, right?
Yeah, it's not their fault. No.
No, and it's I'm just trying to think of who my 15 would be.
We go through a couple.
Yeah, we've gone through a couple of weeks now, but let's put them down there. Baltimore Ravens. They deserve it. They deserve it right now.
Okay. The graphic got
They're
one
not
right.
hurting. They're 0-2.
They're probably the best 0-2 team in the league right now.
Well, absolutely.
What about you, Keith? Who do you think is your bottom five?
I mean, the Panthers are absolutely the worst team in the league. I think for the first time in history, we're seeing Bryce Young do a one-man tank, and he got benched for that. I don't know how he would.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to expound on 32. But yeah.
And then for the last four, they're all 0-2, and it just really came down to points scored. So next, I got the Giants. Then I got the Broncos. 29, I got the Jags, and 28, I got the Colts.
Okay. Steve, who is your bottom five?
So this one might be a little bit different. I did not just go with the teams that are 0-2 at the bottom teams. I actually went with teams that had a bad look or are supposed to be doing better than they're doing so far in the season. So teams that were expected to have high expectations, like the 49ers, who were supposed to go back to the Super Bowl, etc. The Cowboys, who get smoked at home. So my bottom five actually is starting at number 5, how did the Eagles manage to find a way to lose to the Falcons? Are they really a contender? Number 4, I've got the Bengals again, starting 0-2. Yes, they just barely lost to the Chiefs, who are the reigning champions. But again, if you're going to be a contender, you got to win games. So here we are talking about teams that are not getting the job done that are supposed to be. So at number 3 is the Cowboys getting blown out by the Saints at home. Again, still making the question, is only week 2, but are these teams really contenders? 49ers getting beat when they were a 5.5-point favorite, and they lost by 6 points. And then, of course, at number 1, the worst team has to be the most talented 0-2 team, the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. All right. Well,
I skipped the low-hanging fruit of the lowly Carolina Panthers because we all know what's going on there. And the Rams are decimated by injury. It's not their fault.
Well, we're going to pick at that low-hanging fruit right now in those Carolina Panthers. We've seen through 2 games what they've been. They're making a quarterback change to Andy Dalton. Give me your thoughts on this team real quick, and I'll bring mine up last. Let's go back to Steve on this.
On the Carolina Panthers?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting to know what's going on over there, because it doesn't seem like even anyone over there knows what's going on over there. So it's interesting. They went all in with their Bryce Young, and now he's already on the bench, and they haven't really done enough to bring a cast around him, I don't think. Kind of sort of the same problem that has occurred at Chicago with Justin Fields and continues to occur across the NFL when they put rookie quarterbacks behind the wheel far too soon and far too early with teams that aren't built around them to do anything, and then they expect the world out of one guy, and then they wonder what went wrong when it's not working out the way they thought it would in some dream fantasy reality. So Carolina's got a lot of figuring out to do from the top to the bottom.
All right, Keith, what do you think about Carolina?
I think it's pretty simple what's wrong. They don't have any really good players on their roster. I mean, let's be honest. Bryce Young is a second year, and then you give him Trevor Howard, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and Jonathan Mingo as his top skill position players. They just don't have good players. They're suffering from injury. A lot of teams are. But it's not like they're really that talented on defense either. Their best player on defense is arguably Jadeveon Clowney. They just don't have good players. It's that simple. They're not a team built to win, and Bryce Young got frustrated by that. I mean, yeah, he needs to play better, but there's only so much better you can play when you don't have anything to play with.
All right, very good. Greg, your thoughts on Carolina?
You already know my feelings about Bryce Young. He did not deserve the Heisman Damn Award that he won. He did not deserve it. I'm sorry. He got those rose-colored glasses from the SEC there. Kenny Williams III did more for Michigan State than Bryce Young did for Alabama. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel about it. Now, again, I've said this before. Bryce Young was a smaller quarterback coming into this league, and as a small quarterback, you better have a hell of a good offensive line in front of you. If you don't, you're going to get smacked around, just like Caleb Williams did the other night when he got sacked 7 times. These kids come in this league with all those rose-colored glasses on, and all the fans say that they're going to be great and all this other jazz. All those clowns at ESPN hyping them up and all that nonsense as well. This is the NFL. The NFL. You've got 11 men on that other side of the field coming after that quarterback for a reason, because that's their paycheck. And if you can't handle those 11 men coming after you, you're going to be out of this league. Bottom line.
Yeah. Oh, you want to know what's wrong with the Carolina Panthers? Just look at the top. Look at the top of the organization. Right? Owner David Tepper, right, came in. He wanted to, change everything up. They hired Matt Rule. That didn't work. Right? So, okay, I'm going to get rid of Matt Rule. I'm going to get rid of GM. I'm going to bring in 2 new guys. So he's got a new GM, Dan Morgan. He's got a new head coach, 2nd year in a row. He's got a new head coach. He hired Frank Reich, drafted Bryce Young. Didn't believe in Frank Reich. He didn't last through the whole first season. He got rid of him midway through his first season as a coach. Okay? They come out this year. Going into the season, already had questions about Bryce Young. Okay. They get blown out by the Saints week 1. Pulls the head coach in the office for a meeting. There is no patience with the process. Rebuilding a team is a process, not for the weak-hearted. Okay, you're going to have a lot of downs before you have a lot of ups. Okay, if you're not ready for that as an owner, you're not ready for that as an organization, because plain and simple, you do not have patience with the process. You're going to keep cycling through GMs. You're going to keep cycling through head coaches. You're going to keep cycling through quarterbacks and players, because plain and simple, you are not going to give them a chance to grow together. They have to grow together. You want success, a team has to grow together. That is the formula. Okay, you get the talent, put it together, and watch it grow together. You don't go out there and say, okay, roll the dice, win or else. Next, right? It doesn't work that way. Okay, and the owner seems to think that it does. So guess what? If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, this is your new normal until he figures out the word patience, because there is no patience with this process. If I'm Dan Morgan, I'm not comfortable right now. What am I going to be comfortable with? He's already pulling my head coach in office. He's already yanking my young quarterback. And what do you think is going to happen with Andy Dalton in 2 to 3 games? You think they're going to be very happy with Andy Dalton in 2 to 3 weeks? They're already talking about Cam Newton. Cam Newton.
He was there at practice today.
Cam Newton.
Yep.
Okay, listen, I love Cam Newton 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is 2024. Okay, he's on my side of things now. He's like me, a older player, broken down, who does podcasts. That's Cam Newton. Okay, so I'm not bringing him in for a workout at this point. I'm going to bring somebody in that's going to help me win right now. But yet, or if not, I'm going to put my young quarterback out there and let him grow with the team. But that's what your owner's doing to you right now. That's why they're in the situation they're in. The Rams are in a different situation, right? We were all talking about the Rams. Let's talk about the 0-2 Rams. They got a mash unit on their injury report. There's more guys on IR than they're on the top of their salary cap. Guys, let's talk about this Rams team right now. Keith, please give us something to be give the Rams fans some kind of hope for this season.
They always finish great. I mean, that's been the story with them since they won a Super Bowl. They put together a team that was not young, and they're playing like a team that's not young because they just keep accumulating injuries. And not to mention the biggest missing piece of all is they don't have Aaron Donald anymore. Who was arguably the heart and soul of that team. They can't stay healthy. They're missing their centerpiece on defense. It's hard to explain. It's not they don't have the talent. They have plenty of talent, but they can't keep the talent on the field.
Greg, what are your thoughts on the Rams? And
I disagree about Aaron Donald not being there. I'm sorry, Keith. Aaron Donald was a very fine defensive tackle. That's all great and dandy. The Rams brought in Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse on their defensive line. The defensive line has played all right. It's the injuries to this offensive line and to the wide receivers that is just killing this team. That's the bottom line. I mean, if you can't protect Stafford and give him targets, you're not going to win anything. And that's what's happened to the Rams. It's not their defensive line anyway.
Okay, Steve, enlighten us on the Rams.
I kind of fully agree with Greg. I mean, you really, when you're limiting your quarterback, who could potentially we float back and forth of whether or not Stafford's a top 10 or top 15 quarterback. He's in that kind of second tier, top tier sort of category. But when his top 2 or 3 targets are unavailable because they're on the IR or on the sideline because of injuries, and you're relegated to using your 3rd, 4th, or 5th string wide receiver and trying to make them your 1s and 2s, the evidence kind of ends up speaking for itself. There just is a lack of talent where the talent is an actual key, and when you don't have it, you don't have it. So the result is you end up losing a lot of games.
Indeed. When you have a lot of talent at the top of your roster, unless you have veteran talent at the back end of it, or young talent that you're grooming and hoping that it matures, it can be a rough stretch without those guys. The Rams, you're seeing that. You lose Nakua, okay. But now you lose Cooper Kupp too. I mean, there's only so much a receiving room can handle. We saw this with the Dolphins last year, right? Every top pass rusher they had went out, and it was like almost in consecutive weeks, right? First it was Chubb, then it was Phillips, then it was Emmanuel Ogbah at one point, right? And then Van Ginkel went out, and it was just like a trend. Every week it was another pass rusher, and you saw that pass rush dwindle by the time they got to the playoffs. Well, here the Rams trying to get their offense going. They did a solid job against Detroit, despite the fact that Nakua went out in the game. He was already banged up coming into it, but then you lose Cooper Kupp this week when you're getting your butt whipped by Arizona, and it just didn't get any better. And it's just at this point you have to wonder how much better it's going to get. Yes, they have injuries on the offensive line, but the thing is, you could get through with a weaker offensive line because you can chip and do a lot of things to help protect your quarterback, but you can't do all of that and still have guys get open. If they can't get open, they just can't get open. And that's what's happening for the Rams right now. They just don't have the guys that are going to consistently get open like the top two guys in that receiving room. The other guys are good as threes, they're good as fours, not good as 1 and 2. So that's their biggest struggle, and that's what's really going to hurt Matthew Stafford and company. So we've gone through the top 5s, or the top 10s. We've gone through the bottom 5s. We're going to take one more break, and we'll be back with more of the Rankings Roundtable. Stay tuned.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. # built for the wild.
You are watching Team NBS Media. We are a digital media brand covering sports, entertainment, and lifestyle, with team members all across the country. Through our written content, podcasts, and video content, we bring you fresh and professional content. Interested in joining the team? Shoot us an email or DM. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
We are back here on the Rankings Roundtable. Of course, I am Jeff Barnes sitting in for Thomas Brown. Of course, Greg Rector, Steve Rogers, and Keith Richards. Like I said, unfortunately, Rudy Reyes had to step out due to a family emergency. Once again, we're hoping everything is okay. Godspeed, speedy recovery to everybody with Rudy. We are speeding through the show. We got through everything that we really planned on getting to, so we're getting into a little bit of an overtime, right? Got a whole half hour to kill. So, with that being said, each of you guys cover a team. Some better than others. Okay? So, we're going to start it off. We're going to debate. We're not really debate. We're going to discuss each of your teams. We're going to let you lead the discussion, and then we'll chime in from there. That sound good?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right. So, let's go with the most surprising team, and that's the 2-0 Minnesota Vikings, right? So, and I say most surprising because, let's face it, when we did all the preview shows, there wasn't a lot of high talk about Minnesota. A lot of people didn't expect them to come out the gates and be 2-0 at this point. But you did it. Well, I expected you to be 1-0. I expected you to beat the Giants. I picked you guys that week. I didn't pick you guys against San Francisco.
No.
So, Steve, all right, tell us what's going on in Minnesota, why they're 2-0, what do you believe is going to be the outlook for the rest of the season based on the beginning?
I think what really is the most interesting thing that's going on and occurring is what is kind of being lost upon all the other media outlets and experts. It's not just the in-game and during the 60 minutes of the game itself. It's actually the entire organization, from ownership and the coaches and the training staff all the way down to the players. Everyone has bought into the same ideal and the chemistry and the camaraderie that is going on inside of the Vikings facilities now. The coach KOC, everyone is all in and is all invested in riding the same train in the same direction. And you're seeing the results now of a complete transformation of an organization, and it's being evident on the field now, and it's translating. I expect nothing but more of the same of this to continue, and I have not been surprised by this season. I've actually kind of expected it to happen. So welcome to the Purple Palisades, and it's going to be raining purple all season long, I do think.
I like that. The Purple Palisades. Makes it sound all regal. All right. So, guys, let's talk Minnesota Vikings. Like I said, I picked them to be 1-0. I expected them to beat the Giants. Although you did almost give that away a couple of times this Steve. I'm going to wiggle my finger at you on that one. But now, you got the big win versus San Francisco. Took out Deebo Samuel in the process. A lot of teams are thanking you for that, by the way. Let's talk about this. Going to the rest of the season, Sam Darnold is looking good right now, but their defense is looking a lot better.
Okay,
So-
here's my Sam Darnold argument. I'm sorry, but with the Jets, first 3 weeks he was always good. With the Carolina Panthers, the first 3 weeks he was always good. Guess what? It's now week 3, but he's going to be facing the Houston Texans, and this Texans defense is loaded for bear. I don't care. I really don't care, because you got Will Anderson, you got Hardy, you got Daniil Hunter, who I think used to play for Minnesota. I think he might have some little bit of revenge happening here, and then you got Petrie and Stingley in that secondary. The Houston Texans are coming to town, and they're going to be dumping all over the Purple Palisades.
Dumping. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're going to dump.
Okay.
They're going to dump the
Talk about saying it with your chest, Greg. Wow. I mean, dumping all over the Purple Palace.
I mean, that kind of sounds reminiscent to, I believe, our other NBS friend and coworker from last week, when he thought his Eagles were going to do when they were going to put a 40 burger up this week against the Falcons, and they ended up losing that game. So I look forward to seeing them attempt to dump at the Minnesota House of Purple, where it rains purple rain. Thank you, Prince reference.
Okay. Keith, we haven't gotten your thoughts on the 2-0 Minnesota Vikings.
I mean, I wouldn't say they're a Ferrari, but they're like a good 5 Series BMW. That you just give the keys to the quarterback and you just ask him not to crash it. And that is what Sam Darnold has done. He still has 2 interceptions. That's not the greatest, but we know that he can have a lot more. Justin Jefferson has been a great help to him, especially when he can catch it and go 97 yards. But like Greg said, we've seen this play from Sam Darnold before. He starts really good, and then he turns into arguably the worst quarterback the NFL has ever seen. He's just too hot and cold, and he's always cold when it matters most.
Man, the daggers are out for Sam Darnold tonight, man. I'm telling you.
I call it like I see it. I mean, we've seen it.
What university did Darnold go to?
Quick reference.
What university was Darnold at? What?
University of Southern California.
Yeah,
we don't need to bring that up.
Why would my daggers not be out for a guy that played at USC?
There's no need to bring that up, okay? That's the belt.
And technically, Justin Jefferson only had the ball for about 47 of those 97 yards. So, I mean, Sam Darnold actually did chuck the ball from the end zone to that 50-yard line to him. So, it was about 50-50 on who had the ball, where it got.
He's got a point. He did have to beat 2 defenders to get to the 50, but it was a great throw. Nobody will deny that at all.
In stride, right?
Yes, it was a great throw. Listen, 2 interceptions so far. This is the guy that turned the ball over 21 times his last year at USC. Interceptions do follow Sam Darnold, so I'm not surprised. It could be 4 interceptions, but he's got 2. So I think they're happy with 2. Then they wouldn't be happy with 4. So 4 means they would have be 0-2 at this point instead of 2-0. So we're going to go from the undefeated to the bipolar. So let's go to Greg and your 1-1 Dallas Cowboys. Week 1, the defense looks like the belle of the ball. Week 2, they look like Princess Vespa with an old nose.
Yeah, it's the same old story. The defensive tackles just absolutely totally sucked for the Cowboys against the Saints. Alvin Kamara just ran right through the middle of that lineup like it was nothing because there was nothing there. Jordan Phillips, who's now on IR, how you get pushed that far back into the end zone from 6 yards away is beyond me. If you're a defensive tackle, you're getting pushed back 6 yards. That's nuts. That's not being a defensive tackle. And Linval is there. I don't know why. Again, it just is. It's pathetic. And now Mozzie Smith has a back injury. That goofball from that school up north he sucks as well. I'm not a happy camper with the defensive line of the Cowboys, and you can tell because man, they played horribly, and that game was not as far off a game as people think when they see that score. It really wasn't. The Cowboys though went 0-3 in the red zone. Why is that? Because they didn't get the ball into the hands of Ezekiel Elliott in the red zone. That's why he's there. He did it in week 1. You put the ball into the right people's hands. And Mike McCarthy, why in the hell you ever gave the ball to the Saints to begin this early start game is beyond me. You give it to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, you make the Saints catch you. You don't give away the damn football. This stupid Belichick thing of the double score at the end of the half and the start of the second half is stupid. It always has been, always will be. And there's my bottom line about the damn Cowboys.
All right. You sound like you got an itch you need to scratch. Let me get that for you.
Thank you.
All right. There you go. All right. So, Steve, what are your thoughts on the 1-1 Cowboys, besides ranking them in your bottom 5?
Yeah, I mean, that's Greg said it, they're bipolar. 1 week they look like they've got a dominant defense and an offense that can, match that and put up points and be kind of intimidating and scary. And you're like, oh no, here comes this Dallas team. And then the next week comes around and they are at their own house and they go home and they just I don't know, do they take the tire out of the air out of their own tires before they show up to games? And no, we don't need this one. No, we're tired. I don't know. Dallas does Dallas things, and it's always what Dallas does. They're just, for no reason whatsoever, they're not hurt, they're not injured. They just go completely haywire and lose games that they have no business losing. So I understand Greg's frustration completely, because it would boggle. I don't know if I could be a Cowboys fan, because they lose games they have no business losing.
Well, I've only been a Cowboys fan for 55 years now, so I understand the winning side of the Cowboys, and I really understand this losing side of the Cowboys as well. I really do get it. Yeah.
How about you, Keith? How do you feel about the Cowboys?
I'm like Greg. It's the same movie. It's just a different year. Before I moved to Colorado, I was a Cowboys fan for 25 years. And I've seen this over and over and over and over. I mean, if you look at the bipolar games, why did they beat up on the Browns so bad? A, the Browns were just a bad football team, but B, their defense played very well that game. Dak didn't have he had an okay game, but he was only 19 for 32 for 179 yards. You look at this game, he's 27 for 39 for 293, but then he throws 2 interceptions. It's just too often they can't put everything together at the same time. And when that happens,
the one interception was a total gift because Jalen Brooks fell down, and it just, oh, good Lord.
But even still, it's just that if they played even 90% of a perfect game every week, they'd be terribly hard to beat. But it's just either the offense is really good, the defense is bad, the defense is good, the offense is bad. They just can't seem to put it together on a weekly basis.
And I have to give Micah Parsons his due this week. He actually was setting the edge properly, although the Saints weren't running at Micah Parsons for a change because they had so much room right up the damn gut. But Micah Parsons was actually setting an edge. I was shocked. I was very shocked by this. Now, Micah, when you're playing the San Francisco 49ers and these other big teams with the same type of motion offense that the New Orleans Saints are using, Micah, you need to do the same thing.
I'll tell you what. I saw that game, and the offense to me wasn't the problem.
Nope.
When a team is scoring on every possession, it's very hard to match a team score for score when they're going touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, field goal. A little easier to match. But when a team is going down, touchdown, touchdown, there's something hard to do, and it put a lot of pressure on this offense. And this offense is not fully a rhythm. And the Dallas Cowboys, much like Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, and some of these other teams that decide to sit their starters in preseason, it shows in these kind of games that when you're not fully in rhythm and you have to go out there and execute against a team like New Orleans, who's in rhythm right off the bat, and they're taking it to defenses left and right. Your vaunted defense that was so great last week, every phase of it got attacked. The D-line, the linebackers, the secondary, every phase of it. And they were successful at beating it at every phase. So when I saw this game, it reminds me of one preseason. The offenses are way behind the defense still. And in a case where your defense is floundering and your offense isn't fully there, you have no chance when a team is scoring like that. So I think we got to give a lot of love to the New Orleans Saints for doing what they had to do in the preseason to come out firing on all cylinders right now. Because if it hadn't have been that way, they'd be mired in a lot of stuff in that division. Because the AFC South right now is looking really tough. Because once the Atlanta Falcons finally get it going, they're going to be tough out. This Saints team is firing on all cylinders. And guess what? So are those Buccaneers. So this AFC South is going to be a tough division to face.
And NFC South.
NFC South, sorry. NFC South is going to be a tough division to face. But when you're the Dallas Cowboys, you're at home, you get a big win on the road to open, you have the chance to come out there and set the tone for your division. You would be in first place alone right now if you would have been able to go out there and play better football. You didn't do it. Not only did you lose badly, but you got obliterated in front of your whole crowd. So that's going to be something they've got to shake off quickly because there's a very angry Baltimore Ravens team coming to town. So that brings us to the 0-2 Broncos. So, Keith, I hate to put you on this spot. But, you know, especially when it's been so long since I've had you on a show with me, brother. But guess what? You're on the spot right now. Tell us what's going on in good old Denver.
You know, I speak nothing but truth, and I'm going to speak truth now. I'd like to first start because I get called a hater of Bo Nix when I say things negative against him. I'm not a hater of Bo Nix. I call it like I see it. There was this whole offseason where people were praising how great Bo Nix is doing in practice. Coach Payton says he has this great grasp of the playbook. And they get the first two games, and he looks like he did at Oregon. They just don't have the team to do what he did at Oregon. A lot of short passes, a lot of screen game. Selfless shame plug. I talked about in my article coming out. Check it out soon. But if you look at his statistics, he has 235 total air yards, 3.1 air yards per attempt, 19 poor passes, only 7 completions over 20 yards. 5 of those are 20 plus. They're simply not getting the ball downfield. Is that all on Bo Nix? No. Other part of the problem is there are two running backs that are supposed to be great are averaging a combined 4.6 yards per carry. That's 2.1 for Devontae Williams, 2.5 for Jaleel McLaughlin. The running game is terrible. They put up a lot of numbers because they run the ball a lot, but if you look at how they run, it's not good. And then you have to put some blame on Sean Payton, which people don't want to. If Bo Nix has such a good grasp of the playbook, then start calling plays where he throws the ball down the field more. They're simply not throwing the ball down the field. The defenses aren't fazed by any vertical threat whatsoever, and they can just sit and wait for him to throw a short pass and then converge to the ball. And at some point, he's going to have to open up the playbook for Bo Nix or admit he was wrong about Bo Nix. Like, one of the two has to happen.
So what I'm going to do is, before I bring the other guys in on him, do you feel, like we're talking about the offense, do you feel they were premature in trading away Jerry Jeudy? Because okay, all right. Because I'm thinking, well, I'm looking at the receiving core. Yeah, you got Cortland Sutton. You know, the other guys really make as big an impact as Jeudy kind of did when he was playing his best football?
The problem is Jeudy barely played his best football. He had too many drops in key moments. A lot of people blamed it on Russ, but that was 3 quarterbacks that he went through that he did not play well under. So it just wasn't going to happen. Maybe he could have worked out if they gave him another year or two, but then they would have to pay him, and they just don't have the money to pay him. They brought in a receiver from Oregon that should be doing really good with Bo Nix. Barely seen anything of him. The problem is, this happens every year. They bring in a different quarterback. They believe, I'm talking about the fan base, believe a team is only a quarterback away, and that team just has so many holes. And they fail to recognize that. They refuse to believe it. And I think Bo Nix has the opportunity to be a franchise quarterback, but they're a good 5-10 pieces away for that happening.
All right. Steve, what are your thoughts on King's Denver Broncos?
Yes, the Denver Broncos are still kind of a project of their own rebuilding process. They brought in Sean Payton, and I would assume that there's kind of a 3 to 5 year window, I guess, into seeing how much his coaching can take in a culture there in Denver. So far, I'm not totally sold, but again, here we are. Bo Nix is his guy, so I assume that there's going to have to be a year or two of writing out at least a freshman, sophomore year between the head coach and his quarterback, and see what they can come up with and what they can gel and do there. But I'm not holding my breath on them taking over that AFC West anytime soon. Greg,
what about you? How do you feel about the Broncos?
I'm mad as hell because they play in that thin air up there and all that garbage. And Audrey Estime from Notre Dame went down for them. I mean, that's not good. That's not right. But anyhow, Bo Nix. I've said this many times about Bo Nix. He was not a first-round draft pick. I'm sorry, but he should not have been drafted where he was drafted and all that other fun sort of stuff. But again, you've got Sean Payton with his mindset. And that mindset is the quarterback has to do what I tell him to do, and that's it. That's all. There's no freedom for Bo Nix to turn that ball loose because Sean Payton doesn't want him to. That's the bottom line. Sean Payton wants that little short passing game with yards after the catch. Well, you got to have receivers who can get those yards after the catch for you. But guess what? Defenses know this, and they're just lined up on these guys. Bang, they're going down. That's it. And you can't win that way.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I think the most pressure in this situation, everybody's going to say is on Bo Nix. No, it's on Sean Payton.
Sean Payton.
And the reason being is he is not known for developing quarterbacks other than one. Anybody want to say who that one was?
He is Drew Brees.
No, he didn't develop Drew Brees.
No, he did not develop Drew Brees.
He didn't. Drew Brees was developed already. The only reason Drew Brees ended up in New Orleans because he injured his shoulder. Otherwise, he would have been a Miami Dolphin. But
don't say Taysom Hill.
No.
Okay.
No. I'll give you a hint. He threw for 40,000 yards in his career, where Sean Payton was his first coach as a technically offensive coordinator.
Tony Romo.
That's right. He's the only quarterback that you could say he developed. Okay, because he had him since he came out of Eastern Illinois. He was the one who recruited him after the draft to come to Dallas. And told Bill Parcells, this is a guy that we want to bring in here. And he was under him until, of course, he went to New Orleans. And history was what it was. Drew Bledsoe was old. He wasn't working out in Dallas. And Tony Romo transcended Parcells' playbook, which got them winning. Right? His ability to move around, buy time, and make plays is what saved the Cowboys from being a 7-9, 6-10 team under Parcells that year, because his offense was so mundane. Even Owens was like, what am I doing here? So I'm starting to see that same trend with him. Okay, now you don't have that guy. Okay, you don't have a Drew Brees to save you in New Orleans. What are you doing? Because he couldn't get it going when he had any other quarterback as Drew Brees was gone, right? So now you look at it and go, what are you doing? It's a young guy that you wanted, right? He has those abilities. Can you make him into a quarterback of his own kind of play, his own style of play that can win for us? It's hard to see right now. It's still early in his career, but it's going to be all on Sean Payton for that to happen. Listen, I don't doubt that, he's going to go in there and Bo Nix is going to go in there and try hard. That's always what he's done. He's always tried to win no matter what he's done. Even at Auburn, where he, started off hot and fell off. He tried hard at Auburn. It just didn't work. But it did work in Oregon. So the question will be, Sean Payton, can you get this team good enough and him good enough to win games and compete in that AFC West? That's going to be the real challenge. But that starts with Sean Payton, not Bo Nix to me. It's going to be all on Sean Payton to develop him.
I said that going into the season on our AFC preview show that there's only been one truly successful quarterback under Sean Payton, and that's Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. If you look at Bo Nix's college numbers versus Drew Brees' career numbers, they're basically the same as far as average or attempts per yards per attempt, yards per catch, or yards per completion, almost the same. But the people that were giving Russell Wilson crap for last year with the plays taking too long to get in, they're having that same problem this year with Bo Nix, who they say have a better grasp of the playbook than Russell Wilson did. So you have a player that has a better grasp of the playbook, you're still struggling to get the plays in. That's not on the player. Like, Sean Payton needs to dumb his system down a little bit because they obviously aren't catching up to it.
See but this goes back to the whole argument that I have about OCs and DCs in the headset of these guys. That's all nonsense. Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, those quarterbacks called their own games. They called their own games. That's what's missing from the NFL is a quarterback owning that field. None of them do. All of them are a system quarterback. There's nobody who is not running a system.
The hard part that we have now, right? We don't have that kind of trust in the quarterbacks, and the reason is they're not being taught that way. When they, we're seeing them doing all this stuff that they traditionally didn't do in the past in college with the spread and the air raid, throwing the ball down the field, going through professional route concepts, throwing a football. But when you're watching those games, there's no audibling 90% of the time for these quarterbacks, right? They come to the line of scrimmage. Most teams don't huddle, right? So most of them are lining up at the line of scrimmage. They're calling out a formation. They're calling out a dummy call so they can go up there. They call out the dummy cadence. They clap, and they all stop, and they look at the sideline. They get the actual play, all right? So basically, the college coach is saying, I don't trust these guys to audible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own way of audibling. So I'm going to have you line up. I'm going to have you do all this stuff. And then I'm going to see what the defense is doing. And then I'm going to give you the actual play to run. Okay? And the NFL is different. We have an alert system. Okay? You're going to get 2 play calls. Okay, it's going to be a run. 97 blast A. All right. Or, and you hear alert 697 F flat. All right. Yep. So you go and call out in the huddle. You come out. You come to the line of scrimmage. Go through your dummy cadence. All right. And he starts going through, and he's going to look around at the defense. And if he reads that the run is the best option, he's going to stay with the call. All right, Che. All right, great. If he likes to pass in that situation because they're cheating the line of scrimmage, he's going to go alert. Or you hear kill. Right. Those calls mean 2 different things. Right. Usually, kill means you're cutting to the run. Okay, alert means, hey, we're checking to that pass play that's at the back end of the call. All right, so that's stuff that they actually have to do at the line of scrimmage that they don't do at the collegiate level. They have to learn that at the NFL level, which is why it takes some of these guys a little bit longer to understand all of that. So this is the reason why when you have quarterbacks like you have them right now in college, where basically the offensive coordinator has them on a remote control, telling them what to do every step of the way. You can't do that in the NFL. So that's where we are with the quarterback situation. And that's why we talk about quarterbacks, why they're busting, why things are happening, why Bryce Young is falling out of favor, why is CJ Stroud doing well, why is Justin Fields having these issues. These are the reasons why. It's a lot you put on a pro quarterback that these guys didn't have at the college level. So we're at that time where we're going to start to wrap it up. It is coming up on the magic hour. So, Steve, tell them where they can find your work before we go.
Yeah, I am Steve Rogers, covering all things Minnesota Vikings and generally Minnesota sports here for Team NBSmedia.com. You can find me and my content shared throughout Twitter at the real Mr. Rogers 814 and everywhere on TeamNBS.com. And look for my Week 3 preview of the Houston Texans coming to town against the Vikings coming up. Should be Friday this week.
All right. Well, we look forward to all of that. Now, Keith, it's been so long since I've had you on the air, man, but tell them where they can find your work any other time. We see the soccer stuff. It's amazing, man. Keep it coming.
Yeah, so I'm at 5280 Keith, covering most things Colorado sports. I refuse to cover the Rockies until Dick Monfort sells that team. But yeah, the Broncos, Nuggets, and a lot of Colorado Rapids right now who have the MLS Coach of the Year. I don't know what I keep hating because they're third in the West, but a lot of things Colorado.
Of course, Greggy, we know you're around. We see your face a lot, but there's two things you got to tell them. One, where they can find all your work. Two, where you got that polo from, because it looks like you just came off the links with Jack Nicklaus.
I bought this at Temu. It was for like $12. So what the hell?
Wait, you got that from Temu when it actually fits?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But
you find my stuff at teamnbsmedia.com. I'm writing about the Cowboys, Notre Dame, the NFL draft, because I'm now a draft analyst here for the NFL, and entertainment articles from time to time. So that's where I'm at, and I'll be more than likely taking your host chair Saturday night for the last word as well on college football.
That's right. And as your boss, I'm telling you, get to work, damn it. Let's go. So, yes, Saturday night, make sure you tune in for the last word, our college football show that moved from Sunday mornings to Saturday night. So even more convenient when the games are winding down in the evening or are completely over. Come on and hear us talk about it. You hear Greg talk about Notre Dame and everybody else. You'll hear, of course, Brock come on and try and see who's getting fired this week. And, we're going to go through all the games and let you know what's going on in college football. Then, of course, Sunday morning, moving the chains with, of course, the amazing Ashpriya Prasad, the boss, Joe Cardozo, and, of course, myself chiming in. We're going to basically come out there and set the stage for Sundays. So make sure you're tuning in for that. The pick segment has been crazy. So
we didn't do very well on our picks.
Oh no, we all took a beating. This was a case. This is a case of proving that the unanimous curse of moving the chains is eligible for more than one team in the same week. Because boy, it spread like wildfire. There wasn't enough water for all the fires we caused on Sunday. So, yes. So make sure you're tuning in for all that stuff. Thomas should be back next week in this chair. If I'm here, we need to be praying for Thomas. All right. So make sure you tune in next week at 8:30 Eastern Time for, of course, the Ranking Show here at Team NBS Media. I am Jeff Barnes sitting in for Thomas Brown. Thank you to Rudy Reyes, the Greg Rector, to Steve Rogers, and, of course, the amazing Keith Richards. We will be back next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night.
You are watching Team NBS Media. We are a digital media brand covering sports, entertainment, and lifestyle, with team members all across the country. Through our written content, podcasts, and video content, we bring you fresh and professional content. Interested in joining the team? Shoot us an email or DM. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.